On March 24, 1989, the Exxon Valdez tanker ran aground and emptied 10 million gallons of crude oil on the Alaskan coastline. This ecological tragedy has rocked international public opinion. I was in Alaska at the time and witnessed this destructive and horrible sight. One morning, I noticed a group of people who were keenly aware of the impact of hydrocarbon pollution on our oceans. They were French citizens from the region of Brittany in western France. I was stunned to find out that a natural disaster had occurred there as well, but the extent of damage was 6 times larger in scope. I also found out that for 11 years, an entire French region had been fighting for atonement in a Chicago courtroom. This information inspired me to travel to France and obtain a first-hand view of these people who are waging a historical battle, the largest seacoast pollution trial of the century. Brittany is a multifaceted area. The Breton folk are an officially recognized ethnic minority, whose language, traditions, and folklore are originally Celtic. Their fishing and high-tech industries rank among the first in Europe. It is one of the few regions I know of that enjoys such a well-balanced yet dynamic lifestyle. Brittany's picturesque authenticity has always attracted tourists from all over Europe. Its northwestern coast is highly appreciated by nature lovers and vacationers alike. Tourism, fishing, and seafood farming comprise its economic backbone. However, this part of Brittany, known as the Finistère, is a high-risk area. Finistère means the end of the earth, and off its far western coast there is heavy shipping traffic between the Atlantic, the English Channel, and the Baltic Sea as well. One morning, while aboard a Coast Guard ship, I spotted a large cargo vessel passing every 20 minutes. Disasters caused by man cannot simply be ascribed to fate. This one was no exception to the rule. On March 16, 1978, the 230,000-ton supertanker, Amoco Cadiz, was in sight of the Brittany coast. At 9:45 a.m., the steering mechanism broke down altogether, causing the tanker to start drifting along one of the most treacherous coasts in Europe. All day long and into the night, the inevitable tragedy drew closer, despite the attempts of the crew and a tugboat. At 9 p.m., the hull of the Amoco Cadiz was ripped open on a granite reef off the coast of a little port town, whose name was to become a symbol for the Bretons, Port Saul.
On s'en rappelle bien, parce que avant même de voir le mazout et de voir la marée noire, on sentait l'odeur. L'odeur. On respirait cette odeur de pétrole, là, surtout de la côte. Là.
At the time of the shipwreck, the Bretons were unaware for the first few hours that they were going to be victimized by the largest oil spill in history. The boat was broken into 2 parts, and 58 million gallons of crude oil were washed ashore. 200 miles of coastline were covered with oil. killing fish and birds, and the once beautiful seashore turned into a hideous mess. A spirit of fellowship and unity immediately followed. Fishermen, farmers, and soldiers worked side by side, sometimes with only shovels and buckets as tools, to clean up every square foot of the coast.
Nous étions de nombreux élus de toutes les opinions politiques confondues. Tout le monde allait au mazout avec les grandes poubelles. Nous avons passé des jours et des jours à chaque marée.
An assessment of the extent of the disaster would have been difficult. The tourist season was ruined. The oyster beds and fishing zones were destroyed, and boats were damaged. The cleaning crews had to be housed, fed, and transported for months. The spilled oil had to be hauled off too. The roads and seaside were seriously damaged by the heavy machinery. The disaster victims thought, perhaps naively, that a large oil company such as Amoco would observe certain moral standards and wouldn't evade its responsibility. But in 1978, the world's concern for its environment was less vocal. Amoco was able to sidestep the whole issue and declared it would pay the sum of $700,000, which equaled only what the ship was worth. At that point, the Bretons took action. The Breton plaintiffs joined forces to form one organization called the Regional Association, representing 90 townships and 2 departmental districts. Heading the Regional Association are 2 politically divided statesmen who are united in their decision-making. Alphonse Arzel, from the centrist party, is a senator as well as mayor of the town located on the site of the tanker wreck. Charles Jocelyn, from the Labour Party, is a former government minister and president of the departmental council. Other supporters are the mayors of all the disaster-stricken towns, and the oyster farmers, the shopkeepers, hotel owners, environmentalists, and every pollution victim. For 11 years, this unshaken coalition has won nothing but praise.
Et je crois que ceci a suffi pour que les responsables bretons fassent taire leurs différences, leurs rivalités, pour faire passer devant cette volonté de faire triompher la justice. Pas seulement pour nous-mêmes non plus. Je crois que nous étions conscients des responsabilités que l'histoire et la géographie nous confiaient. Celle de faire avancer, pour le compte un peu de toutes les populations riveraines du monde, ce dossier de la justice et de l'environnement.
The trial has gone on in Chicago since 1978. The French government is asking for compensation amounting to $180 million, including $100 million for the Regional Association. In 1989, Exxon paid $1 billion for causing 6 times less pollution. 11 years after the disaster, the victims have only obtained a provisional judicial decision. Only $20 million has been granted to them, out of their claim for $100 million. They are deeply disappointed because the judge has consistently rejected any consideration of long-range ecological damage, harm to Brittany's public image, financial loss, and detriment to personal well-being.
Le juge n'a pas tenu compte de cette demande. Et en fait, il s'est conduit comme si la Bretagne n'était pas une région peuplée, comme si la Bretagne était une région déserte, comme si il n'y avait pas d'activité sur le littoral, et aussi comme si la mer était vide, comme s'il n'y avait aucune faune, aucune flore dans la Manche.
What's worse, the Breton plaintiffs have spent $20 million in court costs. Amoco, although it hasn't paid any damage yet, believes that even that meager award is too much. The company has already announced it intends to appeal the judgment. The Regional Association knows that this means more money will have to be spent on legal action. For the small towns involved, this trial is a heavy financial burden. Brest is the largest city in the association and has paid almost $2.5 million over the last 11 years. The city's mayor believes such a commitment calls for accountability in the eyes of voters.
Le procès est mené, effectivement c'est une procédure qui est lourde, qui est longue, qui est coûteuse, mais sans cette procédure, je pense que les collectivités ne sauraient arriver à rien.
My story could end at this point. It would be about a fight for justice conducted with determination and professionalism by concerned citizens. However, in 1989, the story became an American one. Alaska experienced a different sort of disaster compared to the Brittany spill. First of all, the extent of pollution was 6 times less than what Brittany underwent. Secondly, Alaska produces oil, so its inhabitants were aware of the risk. Thirdly, Exxon acknowledged its responsibility and publicly and spontaneously paid $1 billion. When the Bretons found out this news, they sent a commission there with a humanitarian objective of advising the Alaskans on the basis of their personal experience as well as the environmental development of their own region for the past 11 years, in order for the Alaskans to know what sort of ecological ramifications they could expect later. What an unexpected place for fate to bring Indians and Celts together. Could it be the beginning of another episode of Profiles in Human Courage with the theme of constructive cooperation instead of destruction? And in October 1989, the Alaskans came to Brittany.
Well, I think we'll do 2 things. One, I think we'll continue our discussion about the problems associated with oil spills. I think another area that we would hope to cover is to find out if there's any way that we can help Britain with their problems with the Amoco situation.
According to Senator Arzell, the range of the regional association's activities should not be restricted to a simple damage claim suit.
Nous avons comme ambition de faire bouger les choses, de faire voter par les différents pays qui peuvent connaître de telles situations des législations meilleures, mieux adaptées. Et puis, disons en clair, de faire comprendre à ceux qui pourraient demain être des pollueurs de prendre toutes les mesures qui s'imposent pour que ceci ne se produise pas. Je crois que c'est ça notre ambition. Nous travaillons surtout pour l'avenir plus que pour le passé.
If I hadn't been on the scene of the Alaskan oil spill, I would probably never have heard of the Amoco Cadiz disaster, and we might never have found out that for 11 years, a French region has cherished the hope that the American legal system and Amoco would agree to compensate for the terrible damage caused by one of America's largest corporations. Moreover, we might not have found out that these courageous people of Brittany, and now Alaskans, are fighting a battle to implement more stringent security and prevention measures so that this will never happen again. A courtroom battle is hardly a cheerful matter, but this story is not a sad one. On the contrary, I chose to tell it because it is based on optimism and human willpower. In a word, it is a profile of human courage, determination, and perseverance.